Oh man, this is opening up a can of worms that need to be opened, and it is causing us to um, hopefully there'll be uh, full disclosure and full closure here in this case dealing with the assassination of Malcolm X. But we want to welcome everybody to the African History Network show. It is Sunday, November 21st, 2021, and we are live. We're broadcasting on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, Imhotep. We're broadcasting there and on 910 AM Superstation WFDF here in Detroit. So I was on Roland Martin Unfiltered on Friday. We're going to deal with some of the topics that we talked about there. One topic we talked about here on this show this past week was the exoneration of two men who were convicted in the assassination of Malcolm X. Muhammad A. Aziz, who used to be known as Norman 3X Butler, and Thomas 15X Johnson, Khalil Islam, who used to be known as Thomas 15X Johnson. And this was because the case of the assassination of Malcolm X was reopened, and it was reopened because of the documentary called "Who Killed Malcolm X," which came out in February 2020, and it aired on Netflix. Okay, and when the documentary aired, we talked about it here on the African History Network show. So because of this documentary, it was revealed, because of the Cy Vance's office, Manhattan District Attorney's Office, reopened this case. It was revealed that the FBI and the New York City Police Department, withheld information that most likely would have exonerated the two men who were convicted in Malcolm's assassination. And this documentary is from Abdul Rahman Muhammad. And I saw an interview that Roland Martin did with him as well, but also one that he was on Dr. Mark Lamont Hill's show on the Black News channel, Black News Tonight. And then he was also on the Rachel Maddow show. Okay, we're going to play a clip from the Rachel Maddow show because she includes an excerpt of the documentary also. So after the documentary came out, it was announced by Cy Vance's office that the case would be reopened. And we talked about this here on this show, that the case was being reopened as well. And, more information came out. I think information that a lot of people didn't want to come out or what have you. And a huge cover up has been exposed, like really exposed. All right. Now, New York Times has some good updates on this. Two men are exonerated in Malcolm X killing after travesty of justice. So we're going to discuss this some more on today's show and give you some updates on this. And Muhammad A. Aziz was in court on Thursday, November 18th. And we'll let you hear what he said in court as well. Formerly known as Norman 3X Butler, he was exonerated in the assassination of Malcolm X. Okay, now also on today's show, we'll discuss a couple of topics we talked about on Roland Martin Unfiltered. We dealt with the McMichael Bryan murder trial. It's not the Ahmaud Arbery murder trial. Ahmaud Arbery is not on trial. It's the McMichael Bryan murder trial. Well, a defense attorney Kevin Goff, reports are saying in CBS News had this report that he tried to get a plea deal for his client, William Roddy Bryan. He tried to get a plea deal for his client. Now, Kevin Goff, who has been attacking African-American pastors because they're so threatening outside the courthouse, and then Reverend Jackson inside the courthouse and sitting with the family quietly, and Reverend Al Sharpton sitting with the family quietly, and then Kevin Goff didn't know the difference between William Barber II and Reverend Al and Reverend Jesse Jackson. But one, we saw the defense rested on Thursday, okay, in the Michael Bryan murder trial, but also he tried to get a plea deal, according to reports from CBS News. Uh, Attorney Kevin Goff tried to get a plea deal for William Roddy Bryan. Okay, and this was Kevin Goff sought the deal Thursday from William Roddy Bryan, according to attorney Esley Merritt, who represents Arbery's family, Arbery's mother, Wanda Cooper Jones. Now, the specific terms of the deal, which was first reported by CBS News, are unclear. The specific terms of the deals, which was first reported by CBS News, are unclear. So we'll discuss this some as well, and we talked about it on Roland Martin Unfiltered show. So we'll share that segment with you also. Now, the case goes to the jury on Monday, okay, and the jury will be given deliberation instructions. So the case goes to the jury on Monday, and people are watching from around the country and probably around the world as well about what's going to happen in this trial, especially after we got the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict on Friday. And now, just be honest with you, I didn't think Kyle Rittenhouse was going to be found guilty. Number one, because he's a white male, and two, because of the circumstances, and because of the help that he got from the judge, the murkiness of the Wisconsin gun law dealing with rifles and things like this. There are a number of different factors. I didn't think he was going to be found guilty. And this article here from NBC News, defendant in Ahmaud Arbery killing asked for plea, Arbery family attorney says. Okay, so we'll talk about that also. So we discussed the Michael Bryan murder trial on Roland Martin Unfiltered, and we talked a little bit about Kyle Rittenhouse. Okay, I don't think we actually were able to go to the panel on Kyle Rittenhouse, but we'll talk about it a little bit here. And I'm going to share some legal analysis with you as well. And one of the problems is that what a lot of legal experts are saying is that because of the proliferation of guns now, and there are over 300 million guns in the country, about 78% of the population don't own guns. Half of the guns in the country are owned by about 3% of the population, overwhelmingly white males. Because of the proliferation of guns in this country, you're going to have to rewrite a lot of these self-defense laws. So there's going to have to be a redefining of self-defense laws. Okay. So this is something else that is coming out here from the trial. There was a good article from the New York Times. I'm going to find it here. I've got stacks of articles here, and I had to teach a class today as well. When it comes to self-defense, the burden is often on the prosecution. When it comes to self-defense, the burden is often on the prosecution. And when you have poorly defined gun laws, like in Wisconsin, or poorly defined self-defense laws, it causes even more problems. So this is an article here from New York Times. It's a good piece from the New York Times. We'll discuss this a little bit as well. All right, and so we'll talk about that and the $1.7 trillion Build Back Better plan passed the House of Representatives early Friday morning. So we'll discuss that. We'll discuss that as well. We talked about that on Roland Martin Unfiltered also. Listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep right here on 910 AM the Superstation, the Future Radio. We'll be back in a few minutes. All right, stand by. Stand by, back from break in 4 minutes. How's everybody doing? Share this broadcast via social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in. Stand by. Stand by, everybody. Share this broadcast on social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in. How's everybody doing? Stand by, everybody. Back from break in 3 minutes. Break in 2 minutes. Break in 1 minute. Stand by.
The Superstation, the oldest radio station in town since 1922.
Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Sunday, November 21st, 2021, and we are live. Hope everybody's doing well. I'm going to go to this clip here from Rachel Maddow's show here in just a minute, dealing with the acquittal of the two men who have been accused of murdering Malcolm X. We'll go to that clip here in just a minute. I just sent you the clip, Jalen. All right, now on the African History Network show, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's corrects wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. So when you control the radius of a man or a woman's thoughts, you can control the circumference of his or her actions, because the mind can't do or teach what it doesn't know. Now, we deal with a number of different topics here on the African History Network show. We deal with current events in history, politics, education, economic empowerment, entrepreneurship, relationships, love, sex, health issues, and much, much more. Sign up for our email newsletter. Text the word Kemet, K-E-M-E-T, to 22828. Sign up for our email newsletter. Text the word Kemet, K-E-M-E-T, to 22828 to sign up for our email newsletter. Also visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. If you want me to do a presentation for your group or organization, email me at AHNshow@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AHNshow@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We know Kwanzaa is coming up, African American History Month is coming up, Dr. King Day, etc. So email me now if you want me to do a virtual presentation, in person, in state, out of state. Email me now, AHNshow@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. All right. So when we look at the what took place this past week here, dealing with the exoneration of two men who, for decades, it was said that they were responsible for the assassination of Malcolm X. This is Manhattan District Attorney Cyrus R. Vance. His office reopened this case, which led to this exoneration. Now, if we look at this piece here, highlights from the motion asking that the convictions be tossed. This is from the New York Times. A motion filed by the Manhattan District Attorney asking a judge to toss out the convictions of Muhammad A. Aziz and Khalil Islam in the murder of Malcolm X concludes that crucial evidence was withheld during the men's trial. Crucial evidence was withheld during the men's trial. The 43-page motion, which was granted at a hearing on Thursday, November 18th, 2021, described in detail the investigation conducted by the district attorney, Cyrus R. Vance Jr., and the men's lawyers. Now, it concludes that if evidence withheld by the FBI and the New York City Police Department had been given to the defense, the trial would likely have gone differently. Okay. So we all know there was a cover-up in the assassination of Malcolm X. But here we're getting more details of that cover-up. Okay. The documentary Who Killed Malcolm X helped to expose this. But now we're getting more corroboration of that cover-up. Quote, these defendants did not receive a fair trial, the motion says, and we respectfully submit that their convictions should be vacated and the indictment against them be dismissed, end quote. Now, and we're going to go to this clip here from, you know what, being that it's a clip, let's jump into clip one. Get these breaks every 15 minutes now, and it's throwing off my rhythm. Let's go to this is clip one from the Rachel Maddow show. Rachel Maddow speaks with the director, Abdul Rahman Muhammad, of the film Who Killed Malcolm X, and she talks about the exoneration. She gives some background information on this case and the assassination of Malcolm X. Let's go to clip one, Jalen.
Door has always stood for transparency in the workplace. That's why we show you salaries, reviews, and ratings for companies you care about.
Okay.
The events that brought us to court today would never have occurred. Those events were and are the result of a process that was corrupt and restored. One that was all delivered to Black people in 2021. While I do not need this court, the prosecutors or the paper that tell me I'm innocent, I'm very glad that my family, my friends, and the attorneys who have worked and supported me over these years are finally saying the truth that we have all known, officially recognized. I am a 23-year-old man.
Hey, Jada, let's go to clip one. That's clip two. That's clip two from NBC News. Muhammad Aziz calls wrongful conviction for calling. Let's go to clip one. Rachel Maddow show, 2 men convicted in killing Malcolm X will be exonerated. Let's go to clip one. It should queue up at the 27-second mark. Okay, while we get that queued up, and just press play when you have it ready.
Progress we're helping bring about. Glassdoor has always stood for transparency in the workplace.
All right,
that's why we show you salaries, reviews, and ratings for companies you care about.
Well,
For
we
even
get
more
that queued up.
transparency, our new tools let you filter results by gender or race and ethnicity. Glassdoor gives you the insight on what it's really like to work somewhere before you apply.
The
Ask
47-page
questions anonymously
motion,
and get answers.
which was granted at a hearing on Thursday, described in detail the investigation conducted by the district attorney, Sarvance Jr., and the men's attorneys. Okay, do we have it queued up now?
I think the link was wrong. The first link was incorrect.
You think the link was wrong? Okay, hold on. Let me go back in okay.
The first one.
Let me go back to this because it's from the podcast. It's from the Rachel Maddow Show podcast. It's not a video. It's from the Rachel Maddow Show podcast. All right. Okay. We'll fix that on the other side of the break. Okay, so let's continue here. Let me go back to this clip. Let me go back to this article. So a new witness, information about a new witness also came out. The motion includes a host of new findings. It mentions an interview with a new witness that is referred to by the initials JM. JM conducted, the letter J, the letter M. JM conducted only the interview with a new witness, identified as JM, conducted only days after the reinvestigation began. JM said he was answering the telephone at the Nation of Islam's Harlem Mosque the day of the assassination, and that his account backed up the alibi of Muhammad Aziz, Muhammad A. Aziz, formerly known as Norman 3X Butler. Now, quote, JM recalled receiving a phone call from Aziz at around 3 p.m. on Friday, on February 21st, 1965, the day Malcolm was assassinated, informing him that Muhammad Aziz, had just heard Malcolm X had been shot, end quote, the motion says. JM then hung up the phone and went to get the mosque's captain, and together the two men called Muhammad A. Aziz back at his home. Quote, JM reached Muhammad Aziz at home and told him the captain wanted to speak to him. The motion says, a simple sentence that lends credence to Muhammad A. Aziz or Norman 3X Butler's story that he was at home at 3 p.m. when Malcolm X was shot. Okay, now a trove of documents from law enforcement. The motion details more than a dozen reports compiled by the FBI and the New York City Police Department that were not disclosed to the defense, several of which point to the men's innocence. That were not disclosed to the defense, several of which point to the men's innocence. The FBI reports contain the accounts of several witnesses who describe gunmen who do not resemble the two men, Muhammad A. Aziz, Norman 3X Butler, and Thomas 15X Johnson, now known as Khalil Islam, as well as details about agency informants, FBI informants, who were present in the Washington Heights ballroom, the Audubon ballroom, where Malcolm X was assassinated. On one FBI report from September 28, 1965, even contains a description of one of the men who some experts on the assassination of Malcolm X have concluded was probably the assassin who wielded a shotgun, William Bradley, the man known as William Bradley. We'll continue this on the other side of the break. The calling number is 313-778-7600, 313-778-7600. You listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by. Stand by. All right, how's everybody doing? Share this broadcasting and social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in. Back from break in 4 minutes. Stand by. How's everybody doing? Who still needs to register for the 10-week online course that I teach on Saturdays, from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. It's a 10-week online course. And then also on Sundays, I teach Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. All right, stand by. Back from break in 4 minutes. Back from break in 3 minutes. All right. Back from break in 2 minutes. Okay, visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Information about the online classes I teach are there. You can register there for them.
Tapping African History Network show, we deal with current events in history and politics, education, economic empowerment, entrepreneurship, relationships, love, sex, health issues, and much, much more. Unfortunately, many people confuse what racism is. Racism is a power.
Hey, Michael.
Yeah.
So I noticed, okay, so the second link that you sent again, it's the same one that I pulled up, right? So it's going to start the same exact way.
It starts at they may play a commercial, but it starts at the 27-second mark. Because I just tried it. I just played it before I sent it to you. It's a audio podcast.
Right.
They may play a commercial beforehand. You can just skip past the commercial. You can just start playing once they get past the commercial. But it's queued up at the 27-second mark. I just tested it before I sent it to you.
Right. Which is where I started it. Okay, we'll see. Okay.
Yeah, it's Rachel Maddow. Okay. All right.
Detroit's only African American talk radio.
Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Right on the homepage, we have the information. You can register for the 2 10-week online courses I teach. On Saturdays, it's from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. And then on Sundays, it's Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. So I taught that class today. We were running late today teaching the class, but as soon as you register, we do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded. You can go back and watch them anytime. You'll be able to watch the class we did today. All right. Let's get back to new revelation dealing with the assassination of Malcolm X. So right before the break, we were talking about this piece here from the New York Times. New York Times is good reporting on this and the exoneration of Muhammad Aziz and Khalil Islam in the assassination of Malcolm X. And one of the things they deal with is a trove of new documents, and they expose a cover-up from the FBI led by J. Edgar Hoover and also the New York City Police Department. Now, there was also a good article from Huffington Post, and we talked about this on Wednesday or Thursday show. And all these shows are podcasted on our download the iHeartRadio app, search for the African History Network show, and we rebroadcast these also on our social media platforms as well throughout the week. If we look at this article here from Huffington Post, Hoover hid that some witnesses in Malcolm X assassination trial were FBI informants. And they picked this up from the Associated Press. J. Edgar Hoover hid that some witnesses in Malcolm X assassination trial were FBI informants. A Manhattan judge exonerated 2 men convicted of killing the revolutionary leader after decades of doubt about who was responsible for his 1965 death. Okay, so read this piece also here from the Huffington Post. They picked it up from the Associated Press that deals with the role that the FBI played. All right, now let's go back to this piece here from the New York Times. So a trove of documents from law enforcement. The motion details more than a dozen reports compiled by the FBI and New York City Police Department that were not disclosed to the defense, several of which point toward the men's innocence. Okay. One FBI report from September 28, 1965 even contains a description of the man whom some experts on Malcolm's assassination have concluded was probably the assassin who wielded a shotgun, William Bradley. That report gives a description of William Bradley, who was 27 years old at the time. And the description matches the one given by a defense witness of the shooter who had a shotgun. Quote, he had been a lieutenant in the Newark, New Jersey mosque and was known as a strong man. End quote, the FBI report on William Bradley said he was a machine gunner in the Marine Corps. Now, at least one of the witnesses at the trial was an informant for the FBI. At least one of the witnesses at the trial in Malcolm's murder, the trial of these 2 men, was an FBI informant, according to the documents cited in the motion. Now, one document stated on February 25th, 1965, that the Bureau had ordered its local offices not to disclose to the New York Police Department the fact that any witnesses were federal informants. Okay, one document dated February 25th, 1965, 4 days after Malcolm's assassination, said the Bureau had ordered its local offices not to disclose to the New York police that the fact that any witnesses were federal informants. In addition, several FBI reports indicated that on the orders of the agency's director, J. Edgar Hoover, informants were told not to disclose their relationship with the FBI when talking to the New York police and prosecutors about the murder, according to a footnote in the motion. Okay, I want to go to this clip here. This is from the Rachel Maddow show from Thursday, November 18th. Let's go to this clip, Jalen.
This podcast is supported by
Just let it, okay.
On MSNBC.
Thanks, Stuart Home, for joining us this hour. It was a Sunday in late February 1965. The Audubon Ballroom at 165th and Broadway in Harlem, in New York City. It's a landmark, big building, beautiful building, had a huge theater that saw thousands of people. And on the second floor, there was an actual ballroom. And the capacity of the ballroom was smaller. The capacity of the ballroom for dinners and other seated events was about 200 people. But that Sunday, February 21st, 1965, there were double that number of people crowded into that room, a packed audience, 400 people in the room, all there to hear one of the towering and most controversial figures in American civil rights history. Malcolm X had been the face and the world-famous voice of the Nation of Islam since not long after he joined the Nation of Islam in the early 1950s. But after more than a decade as a lightning rod in that specific cause, he had made an acrimonious split from the group. He had split from the Nation of Islam the year before he took the stage in that crowded ballroom in Harlem in February 1965. But that day, his wife was there to watch his speech. She was pregnant at the time with what would turn out to be their sixth daughter. Three of their little girls were there that day too with their mom, ready to watch their father speak. And as he took the stage and began to speak, the assassination plot against him began to unfold. Someone shouted from one part of the ballroom. Someone threw something, a makeshift smoke bomb of some kind, in the rear of the ballroom. As the commotion started with those two distracting, precipitating events, a man at the very front of the ballroom pulled out a shotgun. And he fired from the hip, and the shot knocked Malcolm X off his feet on the stage. And then two other men, one of whom was armed with a 9mm pistol, another who was armed with a .45 caliber pistol, they followed up the initial shooting. Malcolm X was on the ground. He was laid out by the blast from the shotgun. And the two men stood over him. The two men with pistols stood over him and fired multiple shots into his prone body. Malcolm X was 39 years old. His daughters and his wife were there in person, close up, to see him murdered. And of course, chaos broke out in the crowded ballroom. One of the gunmen, the one who had the .45 caliber pistol, he got caught. He was shot in the leg as he tried to run from the scene by one of Malcolm X's bodyguards. We believe is who shot him, but he was shot in the thigh, and that brought him down, and then people grabbed him. He had dropped or thrown away the .45 caliber pistol that he had used in the shooting, but somebody else recovered it at the scene outside the ballroom and handed it over. He was found with .45 caliber ammunition on him in his pants pocket. He was caught that day, one of the three gunmen. What about the other two men? Again, there were three men who fired at Malcolm X that day. The man with the .45 caliber pistol, we know that's what the gun was because because that gun was found and because the ammunition was in that guy's pants pocket. The other guy with the pistol, different caliber pistol, we know that because of the bullets and the casings that were recovered. But that second gun, the 9mm pistol, that weapon was never recovered. But what about the man with the shotgun, the guy who fired first? Three gunmen, only one apprehended at the scene. After only one of the alleged gunmen was caught that day at the scene. How is that possible, right? Given how many hundreds of people were in that room, how many hundreds of close-up witnesses there were to the killing, it's still inconceivable, even after all these years looking back at it. But in fact, only one of the three gunmen was caught that day, however unbelievable that seems in retrospect. But after they caught that first guy at the scene, it would take them 10 days for the police to arrest two other men, who they said were the other two gunmen. One of them was picked up 5 days after the killing. The other man was picked up 5 days after that. And ultimately, quickly, those three, the three alleged gunmen, the man who got shot in the leg, who they got that day, and the other two men they arrested days afterwards, those three men were all charged with murder together, all put on trial together. They all pled not guilty. They all initially said they were innocent, they hadn't done it. But then at the trial, something sort of astonishing happened. This was the front page of the New York Times the morning after it happened during the trial. This was March 1st, 1966. You see the headline there. Defendant admits killing Malcolm X. All three defendants, the man arrested on the day of the assassination and the other guys they arrested days later, all three of them had pled guilty. All three of them had initially said they didn't do it. But a week into the trial, one of them, the guy who was arrested on the day of the killing, the guy who was shot in the leg, the guy who had the .45 caliber bullets in his pants pocket, that guy broke down on the stand during the trial and said, actually, I did do it. And
okay, pause right there. Just back it up about a minute. We'll continue this on the other side of the break. We'll talk about the exoneration of Muhammad Aziz and Khalil Islam and the assassination of Malcolm X, and how the FBI and New York City Police Department withheld information that most likely would have exonerated these two men. You listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by. Back from break in 4 minutes. All right, if you like this type of information, you can support the African History Network, $ the AHN show through Cash App, $ the AHN show through Cash App, also through PayPal, paypal.me /the AHN show, paypal.me /the AHN show. We just posted the link here also. We're 6 days a week. This helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep broadcasting. Stand by. Break in 2 minutes. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation, WFDF. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Sunday, November 21st, 2021. Okay, be sure to visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You can register for the online courses I teach on Saturdays and Sundays. From the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. So we had a great class yesterday. And then today, I taught another installment of Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. And we do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded. You can go back and watch them anytime. Okay, I want to go back to the clip we were just sharing right before the break. This is from the Rachel Maddow show from Thursday, November 18th. This deals with the exoneration of Muhammad Aziz and Khalil Islam and the assassination of Malcolm X. Let's go back to this clip, Jalen.
This podcast is...
All right, we'll get that queued up.
Defendant admits killing Malcolm. All three defendants, the man arrested on the day of the assassination and the other guys they arrested days later, all three of them had pled guilty. All three of them had initially said they didn't do it. But a week into the trial, one of them, the guy who was arrested on the day of the killing, the guy who was shot in the leg, the guy who had the .45 caliber bullets in his pants pocket, that guy broke down on the stand during the trial and said, actually, I did do it. And here comes the bigger news. The other guys that I'm on trial with here, they had nothing to do with it. They definitely didn't do it at all. It was me. He said he did it, and yes, he had help from other people, but these other two guys who were being tried alongside him, he said they did not do it. Here's how the Times wrote it up that day in that remarkable piece in 1966. Quote, Talmadge Hayer returned to the witness stand yesterday and confessed his guilt. At the same time, he tried to absolve his co-defendants. Quote, I just want to testify that Butler and Johnson had nothing to do with it, he stated. I was there. I know what happened, and I know the people who were there. Hayer said he decided, quote, to tell the truth after brief conversations with Butler and Johnson in the bullpen outside the courtroom. He clung to his story under biting cross-examination by the assistant district attorney. The prosecutor asked him, what did they say when you told them that? Hayer answered, they said it was about time. We wondered when you were going to do this. Hayer insisted several times in remarks that Justice Charles Marks ordered stricken from the record. Hayer insisted several times that the only reason he had changed his testimony during the trial was to protect two innocent men, his two co-defendants. Hayer was wounded in the left thigh by one of Malcolm X's bodyguards as he fled from the ballroom after the killing and was taken into custody while he was being beaten by an excited mob of Malcolm's followers. 7 witnesses identified him as being in the ballroom. 3 of them testified to seeing him with a pistol in his hand, firing at the Negro leader. The defendant admitted firing the .45 caliber pistol that was found outside the ballroom. A spare clip containing 4 cartridges was found in his pocket when he was arrested. Furthermore, his thumbprint was found on a piece of film in a smoke-making device that had been ignited as a diversion moments before the shooting. But Butler and Johnson, on the other hand, the other 2 defendants, they were picked up last year at their Bronx homes in the first week in March. There is virtually no physical evidence linking them to the crime. So we have 3 men arrested for the same crime. There were 3 gunmen who carried out the assassination. We get 3 men arrested. They get put on trial together. One of them, who was apprehended at the scene, confesses to the crime and says the other 2 had nothing to do with it. There is not only his confession that he committed the crime and his assertion that the other guys had nothing to do with it. There's tons of physical evidence connecting him to the crime. There is no physical evidence connecting the other 2 men to the crime. He maintains that he did it, and the other 2 didn't. The other 2 maintain, in fact, we did not do it. Nevertheless, all 3 men are convicted of the murder. All 3 are given life sentences. Now, the man who confessed to the crime, who said that he did it, but not with those co-defendants, he did it with other people, he ultimately served 45 years in prison. He died in 2010. While he was in prison, he twice filed sworn affidavits that asserted the innocence of his co-defendants who were convicted alongside him, and that pointed instead to who else, he said, actually did plan and carry out this assassination with him. But his co-defendants also languished in prison. They both maintained their innocence all along. One of them was not released until 1985. His name is now Muhammad Aziz. He's now 83 years old. The other man was released in 1987. He has since died. He died in 2009 at the age of 74. He had changed his name to Khalil Islam. But tomorrow, in the year of our Lord 2021, both of their convictions are going to be vacated formally in court because it really appears they did not do it. Manning Marable wrote a Pulitzer Prize-winning biography of Malcolm X 10 years ago. It was published just after his death. That biography, among other things, walked through what was so obviously wrong about the convictions for these 3 men, for at least 2 of these 3 men in the Malcolm X assassination. Walked through what was wrong with the, cut and dried, no questions asked, very tidy modern American history of that assassination. A historian named Abdul Rahman Muhammad last year produced a series for Netflix, a series called Who Killed Malcolm X? That series not only asked the obvious question about why these guys who really seemed like they didn't do it were nevertheless convicted of the crime, but importantly, why did that happen? Why did the evidence pointing to other likely perpetrators get submarines at the time by the police and by the FBI?
It's very clear in here that they've got a reasonably good description of the gunman who wielded the shotgun. Bingo. It's clearly based on bureau agents interviewing whomever they could find who'd been in the Audubon ballroom that day.
The source for this report was probably one of the 9 FBI informants in the room when Malcolm was killed.
So it's a very detailed recounting. They say he is a Negro male, age 28, 6 feet 2 inches, 200 pounds, heavy build, dark complexion, wearing gray coat, and believed to be assailant who used shotgun.
I've seen this document already, and I assume the folks investigating Malcolm's murder had seen it too. But I was wrong. Wouldn't this information have been shared with the New York prosecution?
Not necessarily. No New York prosecutor would have ever seen this document. Because the FBI would not release a teletype like this outside the Bureau.
The man they convicted for carrying the shotgun, Thomas 15X Johnson, is a very light-skinned African-American. Someone in the government, whoever filed this report, certainly knew the man law enforcement was accusing of wielding the shotgun did not match his description.
Right.
Very deep in a file that I acquired through a Freedom of Information Act request, I came across another reference to the shotgun assassin. This one based on a highly respected source, Leon Forex Emirs Mussolini.
All right, we're coming up on a break. Just back it up about a minute. We'll continue this on the other side of the break. We have a picture up here of Khalil Islam, Thomas 15, who used to be known as Thomas 15X Johnson. That clip that you just heard, that's a clip from the documentary Who Killed Malcolm X. And Abdul Rahman Muhammad is talking about a discrepancy in his description, and talking about how one of the ways that the wrong man was, two wrong men were convicted. We'll deal with this on the other side of the break. Listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by. Stand by, back from break in 4 minutes. All right, how's everybody doing? Okay, we got Fly Girl, Carrie, Joe's, we have Lee, stand by. Okay, calling number is 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the calling number if you have a question or comment. Back from break in 2 minutes. Back from break in 1 minute.
Detroit, 910 AM Superstation, a division of Adele Media. The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of 910 AM Superstation or Adele Media.
Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. Right before the break, we were talking about one of the biggest news stories this past week dealing with the exoneration of two men who were convicted in the assassination of Malcolm X, Muhammad A. Aziz and Khalil Islam, formerly known as Norman 3X Butler and Thomas 15X Johnson, were exonerated in a courtroom this past Thursday in the Manhattan area. Manhattan District Attorney. Now we know Khalil Islam has passed away, but Muhammad Aziz was there in court. Now this was because of the documentary Who Killed Malcolm X that aired on Netflix in February 2020. Who Killed Malcolm X? And I want to go back to this clip here from the Rachel Maddow show. We were talking. She interviews Abdul Rahman Muhammad, who made the documentary, and she's playing an excerpt of the documentary that deals with the cover-up that took place. Let's go back to this clip, Jalen.
When Malcolm was killed.
So it's a very detailed recounting. They say he is a Negro male, age 28, 6 feet 2 inches, 200 pounds, heavy build, dark complexion, wearing gray coat, and believed to be assailant who used shotgun.
I've seen this document already, and I assume the folks investigating Malcolm's murder had seen it too. But I was wrong. Wouldn't this information have been shared with the New York prosecution?
Not necessarily. No New York prosecutor would have ever seen this document, because the FBI would not release a teletype like this outside the Bureau.
The man they convicted for carrying the shotgun, Thomas 15X Johnson, is a very light-skinned African American. Someone in the government, whoever filed this report, certainly knew the man law enforcement was accusing of wielding the shotgun did not match his description.
Right.
Very deep in a file that I acquired through a Freedom of Information Act request, I came across another reference to the shotgun assassin. This one based on a highly respected source, Leon Forex, a Muslim, former member of the Nation and a leader in Malcolm's new organization. And this is incredible. At Malcolm's funeral, he was told explicitly by former members of the Newark, New Jersey Mosque, Mosque number 25, that the man wielding the shotgun was tall, dark-skinned, that he shot from the hip like he was an expert with this type of weapon. This particular source advised that William Bradley was an officer at Muhammad's Mosque 25 and serving as a lieutenant of the FOI. So here it is clearly. The FBI knew that Bradley was a lieutenant in the mosque. Bradley is described right here in their own files as dark-skinned, stocky, and a lieutenant in the mosque, matching the description. The FBI even had a photograph. So the FBI has his picture, his identity, description. But in August of 1965, months before the trial began, this lead about the shotgun assassin being a dark-skinned lieutenant from Newark was considered RUC, referred upon completion. Basically, that's it. Closing the file. Close it out. For no apparent reason. Didn't let the New York City Police Department know. All this makes you wonder, could Bradley have been an informant working for the FBI? 6 months later, Johnson, Butler, and Hare were sentenced to 20 years to life for Malcolm's murder. Looks like they allowed 2 innocent men to go to jail. That is you know, I mean, as I'm reading it, that is a damn shame. That is a damn shame. Al-Mustafa Shabazz, formerly William X. Bradley, this burly, big, dark-skinned man, a perfect description of the man that eyewitnesses say fired the shotgun. They described him to a T. But it seems he was never questioned, never pursued, never investigated at all by any governmental agency, by any police agency, federal or state. And now I've amassed all of this evidence, all of this information, William Bradley's alleged role in the assassination of Malcolm X. Somebody needs to do something about this.
And that's the documentary series Who Killed Malcolm X, which premiered on Netflix last year and led to the Manhattan District Attorney's Office reopening the investigation into Malcolm X's death, reinvestigating the convictions of two of the three men who were convicted for his killing. The man who's described at the end of that scene there, who's described as somebody who seems to have been potentially implicated in the crime, but who was never approached by law enforcement, never arrested, never questioned. He died in 2018. His lawyer maintains that he wasn't involved in the killing. But this thing has moved now. In advance of the release of that series, the Manhattan DA's office opened what was nearly a 2-year-long investigation in its Conviction Integrity Unit to review the prosecution, review the conviction of these two men who had always maintained their innocence. It was first reported today in the New York Times that the results of that investigation were shocking. The investigation found that prosecutors and the NYPD and the FBI, importantly the FBI, all withheld evidence that could have led to these men's acquittal at trial. Quote, a trove of FBI documents included information that implicated other suspects and pointed away from Mr. Islam and Mr. Aziz. It wasn't just that there was no physical evidence tying them to the crime. It wasn't just that both men had alibis with corroborating witnesses who attested to the veracity of those alibis. It was that exculpatory evidence at the time that pointed the finger at other, much more likely assailants, was not handed over to be considered during the trial. Law enforcement had it. The FBI had it. Nope, they didn't allow it to surface when these men were on trial. Witness and informant accounts that might have cleared them, that might very well have led to them being acquitted, they were not disclosed, kept in the files all this time. How come? How and why did this case get mishandled like this? And where does the surviving defendant here go to get those decades of his life back? And how do we write this new history, this new truer history of the slaying of one of the titanic figures in modern U.S. history, equally controversial and influential? Vacating the convictions of the guys who didn't kill him is one step toward correcting that history. But they didn't stumble into this story themselves. Why were they, it appears, framed for it? Who did that? Where's the accountability on that side, on the government side? This shock to the system today, this sort of new plinth for a storied moment in American history, it comes at what is a very fraught time for us now. Tonight, we're spending another night preparing, another night bracing for the verdict in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial in Wisconsin, a young man on trial there for the murder of 2 people and the shooting of a 3rd person during protests against the police shooting of an unarmed black man named Jacob Blake in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Today, outside that trial, a Republican U.S. Senate candidate stood outside the courthouse waiting for the verdict like everyone else, except he was posing for pictures with guys making the white power sign while he was waiting for the verdict. Today in Charlottesville, Virginia, we got one day closer to the end of the civil suit brought under the 150-year-old Ku Klux Klan Act to try to hold accountable this rogue gallery of the country's most virulent, most pungent white supremacists and neo-Nazis. We're at the point of the trial where the neo-Nazis are testifying in their own defense now, trying to avoid a verdict against them. That would financially hold them to account for the violence that they organized at their big white supremacist march in Virginia in 2017. Today, African-American leaders and clergy were arrested in huge numbers. Literally, I think there were something like 200 arrests right out in front of the White House today in a massive direct action protest. 200 arrests is a very large number of arrests for a protest outside the White House. But this was a direct action protest for Congress to please act to protect voting rights. Today in Oklahoma, kids walked out of school. The Capitol Rotunda was filled. Pastors chained themselves to the fence outside the Oklahoma State Capitol building to try to avert the planned execution of Julius Jones tomorrow at 4 p.m. There are serious questions about his trial and his literal guilt or innocence. The Oklahoma State Pardon and Parole Board has twice voted that he should be spared from execution. The Oklahoma's Republican governor, has thus far not been moved. People moved their feet today in Oklahoma to try to get him to call that execution off. Today, we got closer to the end of a trial in Georgia, where 3 white men are being tried for chasing down an unarmed black man named Ahmaud Arbery, chasing him down in trucks and shooting him dead for the grave crime of him jogging near where they lived. Today, one of the defendants took the stand in his own defense. He neglected to mention that he had intended to citizens arrest Ahmaud Arbery. That had been his defense thus far, but he forgot to bring that up when he described today how he spent the day that he killed Ahmaud Arbery. The defense counsel in that case has returned multiple times now to its arguments to the judge that African-American pastors showing up at the trial to support Arbery's family are inherently intimidating and must be kept out and away from the trial. The Reverend William Barber, who was arrested today protesting for voting rights at the White House, he also today published this op-ed in the Washington Post, quote, "My skin color should not prevent me from attending the trial of Ahmaud Arbery's accused killers." Quote, "When Ahmaud Arbery's parents reached out to me to invite me to attend the trial of the men who chased and killed their unarmed son in Brunswick, Georgia, I agreed to come because I am a pastor." After my visit to the courthouse last week, defense attorney Kevin Goff asked the judge to bar any more black pastors from attending the trial. In an argument the judge said he found reprehensible, Goff asserted that the presence in the courtroom of black pastors could be intimidating to jurors. Barber continues, quote, "The Christian Church, the disciples of Christ, did not ordain me to be a black pastor. I'm a pastor, called to serve all of God's children without regard to race, creed, or culture." When Goff argued that the presence of black pastors is intimidating, his words suggested that blackness itself is a threat. This is telling because to me it seems that the 3 men on trial found Ahmaud Arbery's blackness intimidating as well.
Pause the clip right there. All right, thanks.
So Arbery wasn't...
Okay. Yeah, pause right there. Okay. Let's go. People, check out this op-ed that Reverend William Barber wrote for the Washington Post, November 17th, 2021. That's what Rachel Maddow was talking about. "My skin should not prevent me from attending the trial of Ahmaud Arbery's accused killers." On the other side of the break, I want to get to the interview, the portion of the show where she actually interviewed Abdul Rahman Muhammad about the documentary. Let's go quickly to the phone lines. We've got who we have here. Leroy, line 1. Thanks for holding, Leroy. You're calling from Detroit. Go ahead with your question or comment. We have Leroy. Whoever's line 1, let's go with line 1. Who we have on line 1? Who we have on line 2?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Who's this?
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you. You're on the air.
Hello?
Tell us your name. Where you calling from?
I
can hear you.
This Coach. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Coach. Go ahead. Where you calling from, Coach?
I just got a question. I got a question. I don't want to take you too far off subject.
All right.
But getting back to the assassination of Malcolm X.
Yep.
It was, I have heard, and I can't substantiate it, that 2 prominent black photographers were FBI informants during this time, and one of them being Gordon Parks. Is there any truth to that?
Don't know about Gordon Parks. There was another prominent civil rights photographer that I heard was an FBI informant. Don't know about Gordon Parks at all. But there was one, and the name escapes me right now. But there was one that was revealed was a informant for the FBI. Okay, look, Coach, hold on. We're coming up on a break. We'll hold you over if you have another quick question or comment. Listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by. Bathroom break in 4 minutes. Bathroom break in 2 minutes. Is this the right one? Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Sunday, November 21st, 2021, and we're live. Okay, right before the break, we were talking to Coach on line 2. Coach, did you have another question or comment, or was that it?
No, that was good. It's just that I heard that from the black
Okay.
newscast.
Okay.
I was just wondering how much truth there was to it.
All right. Thanks for calling, Coach. Keep
And
listening.
you don't know anything about that.
Not Gordon Parks. There's another one I know about, but not the one you mentioned. All right. Thanks for calling. Okay. Okay, Jalen. Do we have anybody else on the line, Jalen?
No other callers.
Okay. All right. The Rachel Maddow show clip that I just played, that's from Thursday, November 18th. And she dealt with the documentary Who Killed Malcolm X. And I saw a few interviews with Abdul Rahman Muhammad. I thought he was in, I thought she did an interview with him. I know she played a clip of the documentary, but she didn't interview him. So Dr. Mark Lamont Hill interviewed Abdul Rahman Muhammad, director of the film Who Killed Malcolm X. And this was on, this was last week. I think it was on the 18th. I'm going to send you this clip here, Jalen. It's already queued up at the correct point. That was on November 17th. So that was Wednesday, November 17th, 2021. Okay. And when we get that queued up, I just want you to hear an excerpt of the director explaining the research. Now, very quickly here, if we go back to the articles here from the New York Times, and they have a ton of articles. Actually, I printed the updates from the New York Times. I printed them all up, and they come out to 41 pages. So I printed all these updates up from the New York Times dealing with the assassination of Malcolm X, the new information. Okay, these updates here, it came out to 41 pages. So they have a ton of information. Now, let's go back here to trove of documents from law enforcement. And they talk about new information that's come out because of the investigation by the Manhattan City Prosecutor's Office. So at least one of the witnesses at the trial was an informant for the FBI. According to the document cited in the motion, one document dated February 25th, 1965, said the Bureau had ordered its local offices not to disclose to the New York City Police the fact that any witnesses were federal informants. In addition, several FBI reports indicated that on the orders of the agency's director, J. Edgar Hoover, informants were told not to disclose their relationship with the FBI when talking to the New York police and prosecutors about the murder, according to a footnote in the motion. The police department documents include descriptions of undercover detectives having been present in the Audubon ballroom, and at least one of whom was there at the time of Malcolm's assassination. The report may have been referring to Detective Gene Roberts. An undercover officer who it later came out was working as a member of Malcolm X's security detail. And Gene Roberts also infiltrates the Black Panther Party for self-defense. There's a big article from face-to-faceafrica.com about this as well. We talked about this earlier in the week. The name of this article here from face-to-faceafrica.com is called "The Little Known Story of Eugene Roberts, the Black NYPD Secret Agent." Let me flip over to this. Hold on just a second here. The little known story of Eugene Roberts, the Black NYPD secret agent who infiltrated Malcolm X's inner security and the Black Panther Party. This article is from November 20th, 2019, almost exactly 2 years ago. This is from November 20th, 2019, and it talks about Eugene Roberts. And Eugene Roberts is seen here, okay? Eugene Roberts was an undercover NYPD detective who infiltrated Malcolm X's organization and became part of his main security detail. All right, so read this article here from face-to-faceafrica.com. All right, let's go back quickly here too, and then we'll go to the go to this clip from Black News Tonight. So prosecutorial misconduct. The report also describes prosecutorial files that included police reports that would have been helpful to Muhammad A. Aziz and Khalil Islam's defense. One noted that a witness in the Audubon ballroom who knew the accused men well had not seen them there, but had seen other men who were associated with a Nation of Islam mosque in New Jersey. This is more information that was withheld, okay? The report also describes prosecutorial files that included police reports that would have been helpful to Muhammad A. Aziz and Khalil Islam's defense. One noted that a witness in the Audubon ballroom who knew the accused men well had not seen them there, but had seen other men who were associated with a Nation of Islam mosque in New Jersey. The report makes it clear that prosecutors hid the fact that undercover officers were present during the shooting of Malcolm X from the defense. They withheld this information from the defense, a breach of rules of evidence. Quote, the prosecutors were aware that undercover detectives were present at the time of the assassination, the motion says, adding, quote, the people did not call any undercover officers at trial. There is no record of this information having been disclosed to the defendants, end quote. Because potentially exculpatory evidence that would have cleared them of charges, because potentially exculpatory evidence never reached the defense, the reinvestigation concluded that Muhammad A. Aziz, formerly known as Norman 3X Butler, and Khalil Islam, formerly known as Thomas 15 Johnson X, did not receive a fair trial. Though the trial was found to be unfair, prosecutors stopped short of declaring that Muhammad A. Aziz and Khalil Islam were innocent of the charges. Quote, given the information currently available, the people make no determination on the question of the defendant's actual innocence, end quote, the motion said. Okay. And Muhammad A. Aziz, who's still alive, maintains his innocence. Manhattan City District Attorney Cyrus R. Vance was asked on Wednesday if he personally believed the two men were innocent. He said, quote, innocence is actually a term you won't find in the penal law, end quote, he said. He said, I will say this, the vacation of these convictions and the dismissal of the indictment means that they stand like any other person who has not been charged with a crime. They stand as presumed innocent, end quote. Okay, so check this out here at New York Times. Check out the article also from HuffingtonPost.com. Let's go quickly here to Black News Tonight. Dr. Mark Lamont Hill spoke with Abdul Rahman Muhammad. Let's go to this clip, Jalen.
Shattering development announced just hours ago. A Manhattan district attorney says he plans to ask for the exoneration of two men convicted for the 1965 assassination of human rights leader Malcolm X. New York Times is reporting that prosecutors believe the FBI and the New York Police Department withheld key evidence in the case, and that convictions for 83-year-old Muhammad Aziz and the late Khalil Islam should be thrown out. Quoting the New York Times here, quote, these exonerations represent a remarkable acknowledgement of grave errors made in a case of towering importance. The exonerations come as a shock to many. And joining us now to discuss this revelation is historian, journalist, and activist Abdurrahman Muhammad. My brother, good to see you as always. Welcome to Black News Tonight. Help us understand, what does this all mean? What does it mean to exonerate these two men?
Well, thank you for having me, Mark. It's always a great pleasure. What it means is that the government is finally acknowledging what we historians and researchers have known for many, many decades now, that the U.S. government sent to prison for 20 years two innocent men that they knew were innocent. We have shown in our documentary and evidence that we presented to Cyrus Vance, the Manhattan District Attorney, Cyrus Vance Jr., that the government knew who was involved in the assassination of Malcolm X and allowed two innocent men to go to prison for up to 20 years. One brother was 22 years, and it is one of the most appalling injustices that we find in our history.
So one of the interesting things here is not just that the DA or the prosecutor or even the FBI withheld information. It's that one of the men, born, I believe, Talmadge Hayer, also known as Thomas Hagen, also known as Mujahid Abdul Halim, he said, I did it, but the government didn't do it. And he attempted to direct the government and the public to the people who actually killed Malcolm X, who were his accomplices. So there was really no room here for confusion about who did what.
That's correct. But
hey, pause right there, Jalen.
A judge...
Okay, we'll continue this on the other side of the break. Just back it up about a minute. We'll continue this on the other side of the break. Listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by. Bathroom break in 4 minutes. Bathroom break in 2 minutes. Stand by. Bathroom break in 1 minute. So we may not get to that. Welcome back to the African History Network show. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. Calling numbers 313-778-7600. If you have a quick question or comment, 313-778-7600. Okay, if you like this type of information, also you can support the African History Network, $ the AHN show through Cash App, $ the AHN show through Cash App, and then through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show. We're here 6 days a week. This helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep broadcasting, etc. We also have the information at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. This is our official Cash App account, $ the AHN show, SHOW. When you go to it, it'll say Michael and show my picture there. Also, these other ones here are fake African History Network Cash App accounts. All right, now we're going to go back to this clip from Dr. Mark Lamont Hill's show, Black News Tonight. This is from Wednesday, November 17th. He spoke with Abdul Rahman Muhammad, director of the film Who Killed Malcolm X. Let's go back to this clip, Jalen.
One of the interesting things here is not just that the DA or the prosecutor or even the FBI withheld information. It's that one of the men, born, I believe, Talmadge Hayer, also known as Thomas Hagen, also known as Mujahid Abdul Halim, he said, I did it, but these other men didn't do it. And he attempted to direct the government and the public to the people who actually killed Malcolm X, who were his accomplices. So there was really no room here for confusion about who did what.
That's correct. But in 1978, a judge ruled that Talmadge Hayer took too long in the first instance. And the second instance, that he didn't have any corroboration for his claims in those affidavits. And the real truth of the matter was that there was no political will to bring justice to this case.
What does it mean to exonerate these men now? Men who spent decades in prison, people who people died without getting justice, without being vindicated. What does it mean now? I get the symbolic gesture of it, but what does it mean as a practical matter to exonerate these men?
Well, I think it means two things. I mean, on the one hand, it's important for the legacy of these two men and what it means to their families to not have to live with the stigma of having a relative involved in the assassination of Malcolm X. That's number one. But number two, it allows us to begin the process to interrogate the government, to find out, just what was involved here. Why was there such prosecutorial misconduct, and why, as we've shown in our series, was there such a desire to protect the man that they knew to be the shotgun assassin, William X. Bradley?
That's another important point. And of course, William X. Bradley, part of the Newark Mosque of the Nation of Islam. He was a brother who died right as you were on his heels, as you talk about in the series. The series talking about Who Killed Malcolm X, which is still available on Netflix. It's a powerful, wonderful series that everyone should watch. This is also, to me, and this is just my opinion, I'm curious about yours, an opportunity for the United States government to look as if it has righted a wrong. The U.S. government can say, hey, we are exonerating people, we have found the truth, and we're holding it up. But if we don't scrutinize this, it will divert our attention from the fact that the United States government was likely involved in the assassination, and it was likely involved in the cover-up. And so they're not finding the truth and clearing someone's name. They're still positioning themselves as the arbiters of right and wrong, when in fact they are probably the creators of much of this mess.
Well, we're waiting to see what they present tomorrow, what new evidence they may have found. Here's the thing, Mark. We know for a fact that there were 9 undercover FBI informants in the Audubon Ballroom, February 21st, 1965, the afternoon that Malcolm X was assassinated. We also know that there was an undercover police officer by the name of Gene Roberts who worked for the Bureau of Special Services. All of these witnesses filed reports and were present and saw what happened, and none of them they not only were not called to the stand in the defense, but they weren't even acknowledged to be there and never revealed to, either team in the case.
Abdurrahman, this is a stunning development, and there's a lot to unpack here. I promise at Black News Net, we're going to continue to cover this. As more information comes out tomorrow and in the subsequent days, we're going to cover this. We're going to also try and talk to everyone who's connected to this, because this is mind-boggling, and this completely shifts the historical narrative. Again, people on the streets, people on the ground have been saying this for decades, but now we have some official corroboration of this, and hopefully that can help us continue to unravel this ball of confusion, dishonesty, and state-sponsored violence. Abdurrahman Muhammad, thank you so much for joining me as always, my brother. We'll be sure to have you back very, very soon.
Okay. All right. That's from Dr. Mark Lamont Hill's show, Black News Tonight. That's from Wednesday, November 17th, 2021. So we know the next day in court, the exoneration took place. All right. Lastly, I want to go to Jalen. We're going to go to clip number 2, NBC News. Now, this is Muhammad A. Aziz on Thursday, November 18th, formerly known as Thomas 15 Johnson X. And he is he's in court. I'm sorry, formerly known as Norman 3X Butler. He's in court and he is talking about the exoneration. Let's go to clip number 2.
The event before the court today would never have occurred. Those events were and are the result of the process that was corrupt to its core. One that was all delivered to Black people in 2021. While I do not need this court, the prosecutors or people's paper or tell me I'm innocent, I'm very glad that my family, my friends, and the attorneys who have worked to support me over these years are finally saying the truth that they have all known, officially recognized. I'm an 82-year-old man who was victimized by the criminal justice system. I do not know how many more years of freedom that activities I have. However, I hope the same system that was responsible for this travesty of justice also takes responsibility for the inmates who harm caused to me during the last 55 or 56 years. Thank you.
There can be no question that this is a case that cries out for fundamental justice. This court's paramount purpose is, and always has been, to uphold the law and pursue justice. To Mr. Aziz and the family, and to the family of Mr. Islam, I regret that this court cannot fully undo the serious miscarriages of justice in this case and give you back the many years that were lost. Dismissal of the indictment is the full extent of this court's authority. But for the reasons set forth in the joint application and based on the record that has been made today, this court's mandate requires that the judgments of conviction be vacated and that the indictment against Mr. Aziz and Mr. Islam be dismissed. The joint motion is hereby granted, and the record is
Okay, so that was Muhammad A. Aziz, formerly known as Norman 3X Butler. Now, he was released on parole in 1985. He spent 20 years in prison for, basically about 20 years in prison for the assassination of Malcolm X. He was exonerated in court on Thursday, November 18th, 2021. Okay, that's from NBC News. Muhammad Aziz calls wrongful conviction for killing of Malcolm X result of quote unquote corrupt process. It's at NBCnews.com. Okay, very quickly here. Okay. So I want to switch gears here. We're going to go to the McMichael Bryan murder trial and the murder of Ahmaud Arbery. So we talked about on Thursday's show, Travis McMichael testified that Ahmaud Arbery never verbally threatened him or pulled a weapon. On the other side of the break, we'll go to the clip from Roland Martin Unfiltered. I was on Roland's show on Friday, November 19th, and I'm a panelist each Friday. We discussed this. This is one of the topics we talked about. Travis McMichael testifies Ahmaud Arbery never verbally threatened him or pulled a weapon. He never threatened you at all. Prosecutor Linda Dunikowski asked, and Travis McMichael responded, no, he did not. Never verbally threatened him or brandished a weapon. During the 5 minutes he and his father and their neighbor, William Bryan, chased Ahmaud Arbery, Prosecutor Linda Dunikowski attempted to undermine 35-year-old Travis McMichael's credibility by getting him to concede to inconsistencies between what he told the police the day of the shooting and what he told the Brunswick, Georgia jury during his direct testimony on Wednesday, November 17th. We'll continue this on the other side of the break. Not once in your statement to police did you say that you and your father were trying to arrest Mr. Arbery. Linda Dunikowski asked after inquiring about the defendant's training on probable cause during his time in the Coast Guard. Listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by. Stand by. Julius Jones was not released from prison. He was taken off of death row, and he'll serve life in prison without the possibility of parole. So his life was saved, but he was not released. Stand by. Back from break in 4 minutes. Man, all these breaks are killing me. The radio station changed from having 2 breaks an hour to 4 breaks an hour. Stand by, back from break in 2 minutes. How's everybody doing? Okay, who still needs to register for the classes I teach on Saturdays and Sundays? The online classes. Back from break in 1 minute. Stand by. Welcome back to the African History Network show. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. All right, we're going to go to run out of time here. Okay, so we talked about this article here from abcnews.go.com. Travis McMichael testifies Ahmaud Arbery never verbally threatened him or pulled a weapon. We know the defense rested in the case on Thursday, November 18th. Is going to go to the jury on Monday, November 22nd. We talked about this on Roland Martin Unfiltered. We're going to go to clip 3, Jalen. We talked about this on Roland Martin Unfiltered on Friday, November 19th. Let's go to clip 3.
9-9. It's been the same defense attorney in the murder trial of the 3 white men who chased and murdered Ahmaud Arbery, who've been saying the dumbest stuff in court. Today, he motioned for yet another mistrial over the hundreds of black pastors he essentially invited to Glenn County, Georgia, as he likened yesterday's gathering of black pastors to, quote, a public lynching.
This is what a public lynching looks like in the 21st century, with all due respect. They don't have to have 10,000 people outside. They don't have to have 100,000 people outside. Perception is reality. They haven't put a podium up outside with a hangman's noose on it. Doesn't mean that this isn't a trial, despite the best efforts of this court. This isn't a trial that's been infected by mob violence of a woke left mob.
Now, there were reports of Goff asking the state for a deal for his client, William Roddy Bryan, who took the cell phone video of the February 2020 shooting. When asked about the deal, Goff called the reports, quote, BS, denying the claims. Let's go to our panel on this one. Candace, I want to start with you. This seems asinine to me. I'm just going to be completely honest. And everything that we're seeing here from my black eyes seems like it is just the most overt and obvious example of racial trolling in an effort to acquit their client. But
absolutely. And go ahead.
But will it work?
Will it work? Listen, Attorney Kevin Goff, he is really playing to his base. He's the one who sees the jury. He's the one who knows the community. And he's the one who's from the South. And he knows what he can get away with in terms of what he can say. But here's what I think is going to happen. I think that down the line, he's going to be in sanctioned some way because all eyes are on him. And what he is saying is not only just a travesty, ridiculous, and racist, but it is an assault upon the judicial system and how it works and doesn't work in this situation, that he is able to say the same infuriating things over and over again, and the judge has the same response. over and over again. The truth is that he did ask for a plea deal, and the prosecution, they did not accept it. And the reason why he asked for it is because things are not going his client's way. He has to have faith in his client so that the jury can have faith. If he doesn't have it, no one does. And that's why we know that he believes that this is a lost cause, because he sees what you and I see. He sees a bunch of defendants who admitted on record, who admitted and testified on, in their recording evidence that came into play that said that they had no idea why they were chasing this man down the street, that there was not any threat, any harm to their well-being. And in that case, self-defense wouldn't be available to him. And that is what's going on with them. This is America. This is what we see. We are not seeing only America on trial. We are seeing the justice system on trial. And mostly we are seeing the South on trial.
Kelly, real quick, the song says, don't know much about history. I'm a volunteer. Don't know much about legal, right? But you have the JD after your name. This doesn't feel like an effective strategy when one lawyer seems to be sabotaging his own client's case, which will in turn sabotage the co-defendant or other defendant's case. Help me out, fix that where I don't understand correctly.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. Yes, I have a JD, but so does Candace. But my understanding is no, it's not necessarily. One doesn't have much to do with the other. All three are tried at the same time, in my opinion, because the entire story as a whole is best told with all three defendants in the same trial. They could have been tried separately, but they weren't. And I think it's because the story in its totality is best told with all three in the same trial. Now, just because they are all in the same trial does not mean that the other two will get off. The jury hopefully is instructed to see each defendant independently of the other, even though all three of them are in the same room together. Just because one would be found not guilty would not necessarily mean that the other one would, vice versa. I think I got that right, Candace.
Yeah, no, you did, and I did not mean to insult or disparage Candace. We know Candace
that's
a JD, and so we also want to recognize her legal expertise. Michael, let me ask you this. To say in 2021, in the year of our Lord, in Glenn County, Georgia, after your client is a part of a collection of men who shot and killed an unarmed black jogger, that what was happening by black preachers outside of the courthouse is equivalent to a 21st century public lynching. Mm-hmm. What type of goal, plan, motive, or idea are you trying to communicate, and to who by even saying that?
Well, defense attorney Kevin Goff is trying to appeal to one, maybe two white jurors from the South, who they're all Southerners, but one or two white jurors who will be sympathetic to these good old boys, and they have a hung jury. Okay, they'll say, okay, he's not guilty. All right, and we know it has to be unanimous. 12-0 has to be unanimous. So now this is after he kept hitting on this point. Okay, first it was Reverend Al Sharpton, then it was Jesse Jackson, but it was actually Reverend William Barber III, Reverend William Barber II. He didn't know the difference between the two of them. I guess all light-skinned African-American pastors with wavy hair look alike. Okay, then they show up in mass. Yesterday. Okay, now this is after Travis McMichael got destroyed on the witness stand for a second day by lead prosecutor Lisa Donakowski, and he admitted that Ahmaud Arbery never verbally threatened him or brandished a weapon during the 5 minutes that he and his father and William Bryant chased Ahmaud Arbery. He kept running away from him, and he never said citizen's arrest or you're under arrest, and they never told the police that they're trying to effectuate a citizen's arrest. Okay, so this is what he did in court today, Defense Attorney Kevin Goff, after Travis McMichael, who shot and killed Ahmaud Arbery, got destroyed on a witness stand yesterday. So they know these are dead men walking. Okay, he's just trying to maybe try to put in these objections to maybe try to set up some type of appeal after the conviction, what have you, but he knows these are dead men walking.
Okay, pause it right there, Jay.
Michael.
Pause it right there.
So we thought that about another person that we're.
Oh, thank you. Okay, very quickly. So Reverend William Barber II was in attended the trial and from my understanding, he was in the overflow room. He was there the day before Jesse Jackson was there. Okay, Reverend William Barber. Reverend William Barber wrote an op-ed for the Washington Post called "My skin color should not prevent me from attending the trial of Ahmaud Arbery's accused killers." All right. And in here, he says, when Ahmaud Arbery's parents reached out to invite me to attend the trial of the men who chased and killed their unarmed son, I agreed to come because I am a pastor. So read this here from the Washington Post. Also, Julius Jones, we know Julius Jones, he was not released from prison. He was taken off of death row. The governor Stitt of Oklahoma said that he will remain in prison, life in prison without the possibility of parole, which contradicts what the parole board said. The parole board said he should be eligible for parole. Okay, we'll talk about Kyle Rittenhouse tomorrow. We're out of time here. Right Now is Correct Wrong. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You can register for my online courses there. Right Now is Correct Wrong Behavior is not over till we win. Wakanda forever. And we'll talk to you tomorrow. Peace. All right, everybody. Let me clear this call here. Okay. If you like this type of information, you can support the African History Network, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, also through PayPal, paypal.me / the AHN Show, paypal.me / the AHN Show, and at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Okay, and this helps us keep doing the research there on the air, keep broadcasting. You can also register for the online courses that I teach on Saturdays and Sundays. We have it at our website as well, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. From the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. We do that on Saturdays, 12 noon to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then Sundays, Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. And we do that on Sundays, 12 noon to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. From the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, Saturdays, 12 noon to 2 p.m. Okay. And as soon as you register, you can watch the classes we did this weekend, and the classes are discounted. From the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement is on sale, $50, regularly $130. Is over 50% off. And then also the Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, that's on sale, $60, regularly $130. All right. So we'll get to, we ran out of time dealing with the Build Back Better bill. We talked about that on Roland Martin Unfiltered also on Friday. We'll talk more about that on Monday's show and what's in the $1.7 trillion Build Back Better bill. What's next? We'll talk about Kyle Rittenhouse. We talked about it just very briefly on today's show. Read the read this piece here from the New York Times that deals with when it comes to self-defense. When it comes to self-defense, the prosecution has a heavier burden. Read this here from the New York Times. Very good piece dealing with the self-defense laws and how, because there's a proliferation of guns, also a lot of these self-defense laws have to be rewritten, but also some of the gun laws in Wisconsin are very convoluted. Okay, the gun laws in Wisconsin are very convoluted, and there's a good article from the Associated Press that deals with this also. The gun laws in Wisconsin. The article from the Associated Press, because I read a lot of this here in preparation for the shows and Roland Martin Unfiltered in my show and all of this. There was a piece from Associated Press. Why did judge drop Rittenhouse gun charge? Why did judge drop Rittenhouse gun charge. And this is a really good article from the Associated Press. It goes through and explains this. And it explains how convoluted the Wisconsin gun law is. Also, Yahoo News picked up this article as well, so you can read this here. This breaks down why the judge threw out the gun charge. Okay, we'll discuss this on tomorrow's show. All right, we're out of time here. Remember, right now it's correct, wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Peace.